Well, my friends, last week we heard news of such magnitude that in a healthy society, as we once were, it would have caused a parade. Not only businesses are being strangled by this progressive, anti-growth, anti-prosperity administration, but the entire idea of the American dream of a better tomorrow is utterly abandoned by those folks. Unemployment too high? Oh well. Trillions down the rat hole for nothing? Yeah, that was a shame, all right. Gas prices approaching $5 a gallon? Well, as Obama wonder boy Jay Carney says, there's just nothing you can do about that.
There are no magic solutions to rising oil prices and the pain that Americans feel at the pump.
The Green River Formation in Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming contains the world's largest deposits of oil shale. Being able to tap this vast amount of oil locked within this formation will go a long way to help to meet our future demands for oil. The U.S. Geological Survey, as you noted, estimates that the formation contains about 3 trillion barrels of oil, of which half may be recoverable.
No, I'm sorry, what's that? Can you say that again, please?
About 3 trillion barrels of oil, of which half may be recoverable. No, that can't be right. Let's bring in Steve Green and Scott Ott, because obviously my hearing on this one's defective. Guys, you heard the clip, but obviously something's wrong here, because what she said was the United States of America has, in lightly populated Western states almost exclusively on federal land, more oil than either our mortal enemies Saudi Arabia and Russia. Combined with natural gas reserves, that means that the United States is not only the most energy-rich country on the planet, but it would also mean that we would no longer have to send another penny to the Middle East, but we could also sell energy to the rest of the world in order to pay down this monster deficit. So, Steve, the reason I'm sure I misheard this is because if all that were true, it'd be one of the greatest announcements in the history of this country, and American exceptionalist President Barack Obama wouldn't be able to do a single Hollywood fundraiser without crowing about it. And he isn't, so it ain't true. Right?
Yeah. Did you hear the excitement in her voice?
Riveting.
3 trillion barrels, 1.5 of that recoverable. Just huge. You know what progressives are asking themselves right now? How are we ever going to run out of oil if we keep finding more? It's deeply disturbing. Yeah, it's deeply disturbing to their worldview, because if we don't run out of oil, well, how else are they going to make this country pay for its sin of being successful and dynamic and free and all the rest? And the quickest way to do that is to make energy expensive and to make it artificially scarce, so that we have to send billions of dollars overseas. The thing we have to remember, energy is how you do stuff. It's how you accomplish things. The less energy you have, or the more expensive it is, the less you can do. And that's the progressive goal. We're a free people, and we've got to be made to pay for it.
Don't these oil engineer idiots realize what their discoveries are doing to our theories? Scott, one of the great things about this show is our differences in our backgrounds. Now, as a deeply religious man, does it somehow surprise you that America's been given a gift like this? And does it also surprise you that no one seems to give a damn about it so far?
You know, I can imagine President Obama being told about this. Mr. President, we've discovered that there's $1.5 trillion trillion barrels of oil out west there, and his first thought would have been, "Damn. You mean that Saudi prince could have been bowing to me? I mean, that would have been okay with me."
Yes.
So,
for the win.
Yeah, I think in many ways, the beauty of the United States, the beauty of this continent that we came to, that our pilgrim fathers came to, was that it was a land rich with natural resources. It's an unbelievably milk and honey on the other side, a land of abundance, and now we find out that it's abundant under the ground as well. As we've known for years, by the way, the United States we've already known that we have huge oil reserves. This is just even more. And I picture in my mind a line of ships with Middle Eastern flags lined up in the Gulf of Mexico coming here to buy.
Ooh, ooh. But guys, when you get right down to it, it gets even better, because this is a different find than the Bakken Reserve, which is up in the Dakotas, I think, which is huge, or Anwar in Alaska, which is huge, or the oil offshore California or the Gulf, which is huge. Steve Green, just think about it. No oil spills, no sensitive Arctic tundra. It's on public land. It's in sparsely populated areas. Aren't you feeling a little sorry for those Democrats and progressives and Marxists? Going to take a lot of work coming up with a good reason why we can't go and get this stuff.
I'm sorry, Scott actually brought tear to my eye with the bowing joke. I can't get rid of it. But Bill, really, come on. The people who came up with the snail darter and the spotted owl and the permatorium, they're going to have a tough time coming up with excuses. It's what they do. What I'd like to see Mitt Romney announce that he is going to sell off those lands, which never should have been federal in the first place. They're state lands. That he's going to sell off those lands, use the billions and billions in proceeds to pay down the debt, and then just sit back and watch as free enterprise turns Colorado and Utah and Wyoming into the energy capital of the world. How about it, Mitt? Come on, buddy. Be bold.
Aren't you? Yes. Aren't you viewers out there sick of looking at all those incredible skyscrapers in Dubai, which is in the middle of nowhere and no one wants to go there? Aren't you sick of seeing all those things and thinking, man, we should have the tallest buildings in the world should be in America? Well, they're going to be, sooner or later, by God. Scott, one of the hilarious embedded jokes in this GAO report is that development of these new reserves would put, quote, socioeconomic challenges on the local community. That means a lot of people would be moving there because there'd be a lot of jobs. So I'm going to ask you, Scott Ott, a Scott Ott trifecta question. Shouldn't we re-elect President Obama in order to protect these communities from the socioeconomic challenges that these new jobs will bring?
Well, yes, and frankly, don't you realize how many social workers we're going to have to send there just to counsel people, just to deal with the stress of having to suddenly deal with all these additional people that are going to show up? I mean, you talked earlier in this episode about the oil being on sparsely populated lands. You talk about that as if it's some sort of a benefit. That's the worst possible thing. You know, President Obama and his supporters don't care about people. I mean, they'd rather have the oil be right in the middle of your town, not out in a sparsely populated area. What they care about is the pristine sands of a sparsely populated area. You don't want to corrupt that. The only place like that we want to corrupt is Saudi Arabia.
Well, maybe they'll let us go drill for the oil if we promise to build a high-speed rail in order to get out there to it. Well, there's two things here, folks. First of all, we all know that Obama will not go after these reserves because cheap energy, as was mentioned earlier, is the lifeblood of a thriving free market economy. Free America from dependence on foreign oil and the magical green economy goes away. Cheap gas at the pump and cheap energy for factories means the suppressed American economy would generate a prosperity growth that would blind the world. But that'd make us different and exceptional, and our God King would find that distasteful, so probably won't do that. So it'll be global warming. Sorry, climate change that's going to kill this. So President Obama will stand, as his press secretary says, with the 2,500 IPCC scientists who support global warming. Of course, when he says 2,500 climate scientists, he really means the 2,500 that were, given the report, not the 308 who actually replied, nor the 32 that read more than 3 chapters, or the 7 that had no direct funding ties to AGW research, of which 2 said the report was complete malarkey. He's going to stand with the 2,500, really 5, impartial scientists who support the report and not with the who knows how many who didn't. But here's the kicker in all this, folks. That oil is going to be there long, long after Barack Obama is gone. So keep that in mind in November. For PJTV, I'm Bill Woodall.